Hey, Daddy Steve, please like and subscribe. Okay, let's get straight into it. This is a ultimate commander review of Herman Prime. Let's get straight in. Okay, Forest of Fallen Angels. It's another AoE. I'm only going to be talking and reviewing AoE commanders. They're by far the best. Starting off in the game, middle of the game, end of the game. My point of view, just my point of view, because I'm not maybe because I'm not a cavalryman. Focus on AoE commanders. Deals direct damage up to 3 enemies, not to be confused with 5. The comparator is going to be Huan Yu because he's my #1 commander. And you might think reasons maybe will become clear as I speak in the video. Anyway, 2000 damage, but for every additional target, reduces the damage to each target by 15%. Troops hit, this is where it gets really complicated. Troops hit by this damage, aka the up to 3 people, are inflicted with 2 stacks of poison for 10 seconds. Alright? And before you think that means a maximum of 20, the poison can stack only 15 times. And for its duration, resets whenever it gains another stack. And its duration, 15 times, and its duration resets whenever it gains another stack. Well, obviously it is. For each stack of poison, it has a troop takes 3% more skill damage. So in terms of the skill damage it's going to take, depends on where you're on the cycle. You know what I mean? Of all those damage being built up, it just depends. So it depends how many troops that you're hitting and things like that, and for how many seconds, and that will affect how much additional damage to take in above this 2000 damage of up to 3 commanders. And if you just focus on that first one that it hits, that'll be the 2000. Obviously, the second and third will go down by 15% in turn. But whilst that's going down, due to this poison calculation, okay, so if you get a maximum of 15 stacks of poison, and for each stack you get 3%, my computer brain tells me that skill damage will have gone up by 45%, or up to 45%, depending on how much. Hey, let's move on. Brackets, quite a lot of damage. Bear in mind, Juan is still at 2000 just flat, and that's before we talk about damage of archers to infantry, if you know Juan and infantry are the comparator. Anyway, so we've got a passive skill now, so it's not affected by the rage bar. It will just trigger anyway. And always, the commander's archer units gain 20% attack, 20% defense, easy for me to say, and 15% march speed. Move on. Alpha Wolf, another passive skill not affected by the rage bar. If this commander's troop is attacking another troop on the map, its AoE deals 20% more skill damage. So I know we've already just talked about the 2000 and the poison calculator, and it depending on where we're on in the cycle of poison and how many commanders you're hitting, about how much poison hits and how quickly you're going to get to the 15 and whether your active skills triggered where you are. Once we get past all that, you deal an extra 20% more skill damage, and thank goodness it's been calculated by ROK and not our brains. Brains, not to be confused with brains. Anyway, whenever their troops use an active skill whilst attacking another troop on the map, their current target loses, aka gets a debuff, 20% defense for 2 seconds. So in terms of all the other calculations which just depend, how much rage you got, and again, how many commanders you got and how much poison there is, the target might have an extra 20% defense debuff for 2 seconds. Okay, so anyway, commander's archer units take 5% more damage from cavalry units, aka a natural enemy, but deal 5% more to infantry units. What does that really mean? That means we're going to attack infantry anyway, especially if it's Huan Yu and he's going to be out there trying to silence us, aka taking away our primary skill. But we'll actually, on top of everything else, an extra 5% more damage. Just because, you know, cause we kind of need it. I'm still working on this one, so I'm going to be optimizing this one, obviously, ASAP. Anyway, so Mandrake Root, another passive skill, aka not affected by the rage bar. It just trigger anyway. This commander's troop takes less damage from poisoned troops, which we've already talked about, damage reduction depends on how many stacks of poison, which we've already talked about, which is affected by how many troops hit by your active skill. And it triggers or something like that. Okay, we'll look at it again. Whenever the troop launches a basic attack, it's a 10% chance to deal extra damage. Ooh, but from basic attacks, it has 10% chance, aka 90% chance not to, deal extra damage up to 3 enemies in a fan. And it's a whole 120. Woo! And every additional target reduces the damage by, the traditional 15%. Troops hit by this damage are inflicted with 2 stacks of poison. Oh my god, not more poison. Okay, but there's only a 10% chance they're going to get this additional poison threshold, and it's just all about poison. It's just too much. Listen, just read the poison. I was going to go over it again. I'm going to spare you that. Just work out. There's lots of ways to get poison, and it's all bad news for them. It's all good news for us. Let's just stick with that. Stick with that. Whenever this commander's troop inflicts 25 stacks of poison on enemy troops, it triggers the Forest of Fallen Eagles skill at level 5. Cooldown is 10 seconds. So before, when it was saying that a maximum of 15 can stack up to 15 times, now it's saying 25 times. So maybe anyway, let's not worry about it. There's a point when all that poison which is added to the other side, aka the enemy, just gives them more bad news. It triggers the Forest of the Fallen Eagles skill at level 5. So this one will be triggered to give them another 2,000 damage. Let's move on. Gosh. And as always, I'm trying to remind you guys, depends where you've got this. For me, Herman, especially since I'm still building him up, he doesn't feature anywhere, but you might want to put him somewhere if he's one of your primaries, or if he's going to have actual as your primary commander, experienced battle. Ottoman, obviously, this boosts health, march speed, which we love, obviously, and skill damage for archers. So that's only good news for Herman, only going to help. And just a quickly look at his tree. Bearing in mind, I don't use Herman as a primary, so I'm not overly kind of focused on his tree. Here it is. I've already talked about how I'm never going to be that bothered about reducing march speed on other videos. Why would I want to do that? I'd rather just, whoever I'm hitting, I'm going to hit. An archer is never going to catch up to cavalry. You're going to catch him most of the time, unless there's a technology imbalance. But you would always definitely catch the infantry anyway, because you're just naturally quicker. So work that one out, and this is the tree that I recommend, and I'm going to leave it there. Please like and subscribe. That is Steve, and I am out.